Hey there. You've tried all the advice, the Pomodoro technique, the 2-minute rule, time blocking, you've read the books, watched the videos, and you still end up scrolling through your phone when you should be working. It's frustrating. And here's why all of that advice is wrong. You don't need 10 steps to beat procrastination. You don't even need 5. There is only one single rule that matters. The rule is so simple, you'll be able to apply it in the next 5 minutes. It's the one thing all successful people use to get things done, and it has nothing to do with time management. It has everything to do with understanding your brain. The world is full of advice like, just do it, get it together, man up. But if that advice worked, this video wouldn't exist. Those tips are like telling a person who's drowning, just swim. The problem is much deeper. Behind procrastination, there is always something else: a fear of failure, perfectionism, a lack of motivation, or simply not knowing where to begin. This one rule is not a magic pill. It's a framework. We will break it down into 4 powerful pillars that will help you rewire your brain, your habits, and your attitude toward your tasks. We're going to use psychological tricks that make work not just possible, but inevitable. We're going to stop seeing procrastination as an enemy and start seeing it as a signal that points us to our hidden problems. Now, let's begin our journey by understanding the very first pillar.
The first and most crucial pillar of that rule is this: procrastination is not about laziness, it's about a root cause. Before we can beat it, we have to stop treating the symptoms and find the disease. The problem with the advice, just do it, is that it ignores the real reason you're not doing it. Think of it like this: procrastination is a fever. It's an uncomfortable symptom. But a fever isn't the problem itself, it's a sign that your body is fighting off an infection. Taking aspirin will make you feel better for a while, but it won't kill the bacteria causing the problem. The same goes for procrastination. The real cause is almost always an underlying psychological or emotional issue. What are these root causes? They are a little like the monsters under your bed. They get bigger and scarier the longer you refuse to look at them. These culprits often hide behind a seemingly harmless lack of clarity, leaving a task so overwhelming you don't know where to start. Other times, it's a crippling fear of failure, where it's easier to say you didn't try than to admit you tried and failed. There's also its opposite, the fear of success, which can make you subconsciously sabotage yourself to avoid new responsibilities. And of course, there's the perfectionist inside you, whispering that if a task isn't perfect, it's not worth doing at all, making you wait for a perfect moment that never arrives. The only way to find your specific root cause is to look for it. We're going to use a simple technique called the 5 whys method. When you catch yourself procrastinating, you simply start a conversation with yourself. Begin by asking, why am I putting this off? Once you have an answer, you ask, and why is that a problem? Then you dig deeper with, and why does that bother me? Keep going until you get to the 5th why. This final question will often expose the underlying fear or belief that's truly holding you back. You'll be surprised at what you discover. You might think you're procrastinating because you're lazy, but after using this method, you might realize you're actually afraid your boss won't like your idea. You're not lazy, you're afraid. I know a writer who kept putting off a new article. She thought she was just being lazy, but after using this method, she discovered the real reason. It wasn't laziness. She had a sudden burst of success a few months prior, and she was terrified that her next article wouldn't be as good. Her procrastination was a self-defense mechanism, a way to avoid the stress of trying to live up to her own expectations. Once she identified the real cause, she could address the fear instead of just trying to be more productive. She gave herself permission to write a good enough first draft, and the work started flowing. The takeaway here is simple. Stop fighting the symptom, find the root cause, and then you can actually solve the problem.
Once you've uncovered the root cause of your procrastination, what do you do with it? Understanding your fear is a powerful first step, but it doesn't magically make your to-do list disappear. This is where we need a tool to make starting not just possible, but inevitable. This brings us to the second pillar of our one-rule framework, the atomic habit rule. Most of us think that to get a big task done, we need to find a big burst of motivation. We sit there, staring at a blank screen, waiting for inspiration to strike, like a lightning bolt from the productivity gods. It never comes. The atomic habit rule teaches us that the goal isn't to find motivation. The goal is to make the task so small that it becomes easier to do it than to put it off. Think of it this way. When you want to start exercising, you don't aim to run a marathon on day one. Your only goal is to put on your running shoes. It sounds ridiculous, but once your shoes are on, the rest of the process, walking out the door, jogging a few steps, has already become easier. The real enemy of progress isn't the task itself, it's the mental friction of starting. We need to reduce that friction to zero. The most effective way to do this is to apply the famous 2-minute rule. The idea is simple. Any new habit should take less than 2 minutes to perform. When you're faced with a big, overwhelming task, your job isn't to finish it. Your job is to break it down into a version that takes less than 2 minutes. Instead of write a report, your task becomes open the document and write the title. Instead of clean the house, your task becomes wipe down one kitchen counter. Instead of study for an exam, your task becomes open the textbook and read one paragraph. This isn't a trick to fool yourself. It's a strategic psychological hack. The real purpose of the 2-minute task isn't to get a lot done, but to master the habit of showing up. Once you start, momentum takes over. It's hard to stop after just one sentence or after just wiping one counter. The initial barrier to entry has been removed, and the path to progress is now clear. I had an acquaintance, a young entrepreneur, who was struggling to write a business plan. The thought of a 50-page document filled him with dread, so he spent weeks procrastinating. He thought he was lazy, but after he identified that his root cause was a fear of the unknown, we applied the atomic habit rule. His new task wasn't to write a business plan. His task was to open the blank document every day for 2 minutes. The first few days, that's all he did. But by the end of the week, the blank document no longer felt intimidating. He started typing a few sentences, then a few paragraphs. 6 weeks later, the business plan was finished. He didn't magically find motivation. He built it, one tiny 2-minute step at a time. The takeaway here is that you don't need a monumental effort to start. You just need a tiny atomic action that is so easy, your brain won't even try to stop you. Now that we've learned how to start, let's talk about the mindset you need to keep going.
The atomic habit rule helps you start. It gets you in the door. But once you're in, a new problem often appears. It's the little voice in your head that whispers, "This isn't good enough," or "Why bother if you can't do it perfectly?" This brings us to the third pillar, the mindset shift rule. This rule is about confronting a silent killer of productivity that often parades as a virtue, perfectionism. We've all been told to strive for excellence, but there's a difference between a healthy pursuit of quality and a paralyzing fear of being anything less than perfect. Perfectionism isn't about high standards. It's about a crippling fear of judgment. It's a way for your brain to protect you by telling you that the safest thing to do is nothing at all. Because if you don't finish, you can't fail. Our goal here is to sever the toxic link between your self-worth and the outcome of your work. You are not your project. You are not your report. You are not the grade you get. You are a person who is capable of doing these things, and the act of doing them, the process, is what matters most. Remember the motto, and repeat it often: done is better than perfect. The most effective way to beat perfectionism is to give yourself permission to do a bad job. I'm not kidding. Consciously decide that your first draft, your first attempt, or your first idea is supposed to be bad. Here's how it works. Instead of sitting down to write the perfect essay, you sit down to write the terrible first draft. Instead of starting a flawless new business, you sit down to outline a terrible first version of my business plan. The goal of the first draft isn't quality, it's quantity. It's simply to get something, anything, down on paper. You're giving your brain a safe space to fail without consequences. You're taking the pressure of perfection off the table. This mental trick is incredibly powerful because it turns your greatest fear into your greatest asset. It allows you to produce something, anything at all, which is infinitely better than having a perfect idea that never sees the light of day. You can't edit a blank page. You can't improve a concept that only exists in your head. The bad first draft is the essential first step to making something great. A graphic designer I know was stuck on a client project. He was so overwhelmed by the pressure to create the perfect logo that he spent days staring at a blank screen. He was a perfectionist and believed his reputation was on the line. We used the bad first draft method. His task became to create the worst 5 logo ideas possible. He laughed, but he did it. The first 5 ideas were terrible, but the 6th one wasn't, and the 7th was even better. He had broken the paralysis of perfection and created momentum by giving himself permission to fail. The takeaway here is that you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be brave enough to start poorly. Now that we have the tools to start and the mindset to keep going, let's talk about how to organize your world to support you.
You've got the why, you've got the how, and you've got the mindset. You're ready to go. But what happens when your physical world is constantly working against you? This is where our final and most practical pillar comes in, the environment rule. We often think of ourselves as rational beings, making conscious choices. But in reality, our decisions are heavily influenced by our surroundings. Your environment is a silent architect of your behavior. It's the reason why the junk food is always at eye level in the grocery store and why the cash register is lined with tempting candies. The store isn't designed for your health, it's designed to make you buy things. Your workspace should be designed for your success. The fundamental principle of the environment rule is to make good habits easy and bad habits hard. You need to become a behavioral architect of your own life, and it's simpler than it sounds. Here is how you can redesign your world to eliminate procrastination. Make your good habits effortless. Reduce the friction for doing the right thing. If you want to work out in the morning, lay out your workout clothes and shoes next to your bed the night before. If you want to read more, put the book right on your pillow. If you need to start a task, make sure the tools you need are already out and ready. Your brain loves the path of least resistance, so make the path to productivity the easiest one to take. Make your bad habits difficult. Increase the friction for doing the wrong thing. Our phones are the ultimate procrastination tool. The solution? Charge your phone in another room overnight. When you sit down to work, leave it out of reach. If you're a snacker, don't buy the junk food in the first place. If it's not in the house, you can't eat it. If it is in the house, hide it on the highest shelf in the back of the cupboard. The small amount of effort it takes to get it will often be enough to make you stop. The one-task desk. This is a simple but powerful hack. Your workspace should reflect your immediate goal. When you sit down to write, your desk should have nothing on it but your computer and a glass of water. If you're studying, only the textbook for that one subject should be open. This prevents decision fatigue and sends a clear signal to your brain, this is what we are doing right now and nothing else. I once worked with a student who couldn't focus on his homework. His desk was a chaotic graveyard of books, old notes, and chargers. His phone was always in his hand. He was trying to use sheer willpower to fight an environment designed for distraction. Our solution was simple. He cleared his desk completely, leaving only a notebook and a single pen. He started charging his phone in the living room. The first few days felt strange, but soon he found that when he sat at his desk, his brain had no choice but to focus on the task at hand. The decision was already made for him. By designing your environment to support your goals, you remove the constant need for willpower. Your space becomes your greatest ally, not your biggest obstacle.
The end. Now that we have the ultimate toolkit for success, let's wrap everything up in a powerful conclusion. We started this journey with a promise that you don't need 10 different tips to beat procrastination. You just need to understand and apply one single rule. And you now have the 4 powerful pillars that make that rule work. We learned that procrastination isn't a character flaw. It's a symptom of a deeper psychological issue. That's the root cause rule. We discovered that you don't need a monumental burst of motivation to start. You just need to make the first step so tiny that your brain won't even register it as a threat. That's the atomic habit rule. We understood that perfectionism is often the greatest enemy of progress, and that giving yourself permission to do a bad job is the fastest path to a great one. That's the mindset shift rule. And finally, we saw how redesigning your environment to make good habits effortless and bad habits difficult can remove the need for willpower. That's the environment rule. This one rule is not a magic fix. It's a system. It's a toolkit for understanding why you act the way you do and giving you the power to change it. Your procrastination isn't who you are. It's just a pattern of behavior, and like any pattern, it can be broken. The most important thing to remember is that you now have the knowledge. The next step is to put it into action. Now, I want you to go to the comments below and tell me, which of the 4 rules are you going to implement today? Just one. Don't procrastinate on this. Let me know. Your first comment might be the very first step toward a new, more productive you. If you found this guide helpful, hit the like button and subscribe to join a community of people who are serious about personal growth. With every new video, we'll continue building the tools you need to take control of your life. Thanks for watching.